And there we go. Hello, one and all. This is Kevin, the Apptrepreneur, and welcome to the Apptrepreneur Show. This is where we talk about tech, pop culture, and life in between. We also do that on our iCritic Live show. I got to pick which slogan I'm going to give to which show, and whenever one that doesn't get that slogan, well, I guess I'm going to have to think of another slogan for that show. Now, I actually had several videos I was going to make today, and then I said, you know what, screw it, just screw it. I'm going to do all of them in a impromptu live stream. That means we probably won't get a lot of guests for this, but hey, that's fine. The videos will be broken up and sprinkled out throughout the rest of the week. So anyway, let us start with the big story of the day. So I am a cryptocurrency buyer. I have been very open about that, and I do buy a lot of cryptos. Now, I primarily use Robinhood and Webull and Public to buy those cryptos, all of which, if you sign up below, you will get a free stock or, of some sort when you sign up and you use my link. But I also like to use Coinbase a little bit. Now, the reason I use Coinbase less than most is because of the fees. The fees are high. That's just the way it is. You might be able to hear my chinchilla running on her wheel. And Coinbase had a little program called Coinbase Pro. Thank you, Minnie, for ruining my my shot. Well, oh well. Well, it's an animal. What are you going to do? And Coinbase Pro was one of those things that if you were a more advanced trader, you could have a program that would have all the statistics. It would look all fancy. And, it was basically for people who were more advanced in investing. Well, Coinbase has decided that they are going to shut Coinbase Pro down to merge the trading services. Now, is this a good thing or a bad thing? Well, let's take a look at this article on Cointelegraph, which is the future of money, and see exactly what's going on. So, according to Helen Partz, launched in 2018, Coinbase Pro was designed to feature unlimited trading volume, supporting more than 250 cryptocurrencies. Coinbase's professional trading platform, Coinbase Pro, will cease to exist as the cryptocurrency exchange unveiled plans to restructure its services to consolidate them into one platform. The United States-based crypto trading firm officially announced on Wednesday that it will start sunsetting Coinbase Pro to migrate all advanced trading services into one unified Coinbase account. Coinbase Pro services will migrate to Advanced Trade, Coinbase's new trading section accessible via the exchange's website. The section was initially launched in March 2022, providing traders with an in-depth analysis and actual trading directly on Coinbase. According to the announcement, Advanced Trade will provide the same volume-based fees as Coinbase Pro. Depending on volumes and taker or maker orders, Coinbase Pro's fees range from 0 to 0.6%, according to data from Coinbase's official website at the time of writing. The upcoming migration of Coinbase Pro to Advanced Trade will take place gradually over the next several months as the exchange continues to launch new planned upgrades to Advanced Trade. Coinbase noted that it will notify its customers about exact dates for sunsetting Coinbase Pro, adding, "For customers holding funds on Coinbase Pro, there is no action to take. Funds will remain safe on Coinbase. Meanwhile, customers are welcome to begin using Advanced Trade on the Coinbase mobile app and Coinbase.com. According to the announcement, the migration aims to simplify the trading process on Coinbase by allowing professional traders to access advanced trading tools and use general Coinbase features in one place using one balance. In the past, advanced traders have used Coinbase Pro for more in-depth trades and analysts, but in order to use other Coinbase features, you had to transfer funds to your primary Coinbase account, the firm said. Launched in 2012, Coinbase is a publicly traded company and one of the largest crypto trading platforms in the world. It should be noted, I have stock in Coinbase. The company launched Coinbase Pro in 2018, targeting professional investors and focusing on expanded trading services, providing exposure to more cryptocurrencies. The original Coinbase platform primarily targeted beginners, reportedly supporting around 100 cryptocurrencies, while Coinbase Pro provided exposure to over 250 digital assets. Coinbase Pro also offers unlimited trading amounts, while the original Coinbase platform trading volume is capped depending on payment methods and region. So basically what's going on here is that Coinbase Pro is being rebranded. That's what's going on. It's a rebrand. It has not been the success that they want it to be. And as a result, they want to rebrand it. Now, look, this sort of thing happens all the time. And it is especially prevalent when you have a stock that is getting hammered. Now, I do have investments in Coinbase. I will probably buy more stock in Coinbase, but I'm not going to lie. It has been extremely ugly. And Coinbase's future is at least a little bit in doubt. Even I will admit that. And one of the things that Coinbase wants to do is they are going to shutter this program and they're going to rebrand it so that come the next quarter, they can show, look, we have this new product and look at how many people joined this product, even though it might in reality be the exact same amount of people who are using Coinbase Pro. Also, by merging the products, maybe you can get around some of the red tape, if you will. Like, it was a little cumbersome to use Coinbase Pro. You had to kind of go here to do this and go there to do that. And so now by unifying some of the features, Coinbase Pro can now be a unified product that will hopefully be simpler to use. At least that's what they hope. I have no doubt that this is primarily all about stock and how the stock options look. So, I mean, will it work? That is the big question. I don't know if it's really completely going to work. I think it's a Band-Aid on a bigger issue. And I think Coinbase, even though I am an investor and I will probably buy more stock, the thing is, I think Coinbase is in for a very, very rough rest of the year. And I acknowledge that. I mean, crypto has been taking a huge beating. Of course, it's also not the first crypto meltdown that I've been through. I remember like 9 years ago when crypto just had like a massive meltdown and people said to get out of the scam. And then eventually it clawed its way back. And so who knows what's going to happen with crypto? It's still a new currency. I mean, the thing that's going to make or break crypto really is people who buy it to use it as currency, not people who buy it to get rich. But I would like to know what you all think about this. Do you think that this rebranding of Coinbase Pro is going to work? Or do you think maybe it's just too little too late? Let me know. Comment below. Like, favorite, share, subscribe. And as always, flame responsibly. All right. So with that out of the way, and since there are no comments so far, let's talk about topic number 2. And the second topic involves remote work. Now, we have been talking a lot about remote work on this channel. I believe remote work is the future. I personally, unless they can pay me enough money, I don't want to go back to the office. I think the office, all it adds really is a commute. I'm perfectly fine talking with people on Zoom, on cell phone. I can do a lot of email correspondence. And so I am looking for remote work. And a lot of companies have been trying to get people back in the office, but some companies have also been trying hybrid work, where it's like, hey, you do remote work a couple days a week, but then you come in a few days at the office. Well, there's at least one company that has decided enough is enough. This is just not working. And as a result, they are shuttering offices, and that would be Yelp, as Yelp is shutting down some offices and they are doubling down on remote. CEO calls hybrid hell. This comes to us from the Washington Post. Yelp, an app that recommends local restaurants and services to users using location-based services, is closing its offices in New York, Chicago, and Washington, D.C. as part of a move to double down on remote work. I also want to add, they're probably doing this to save a lot of money because New York, Chicago, Washington, D.C., not exactly cheap places to have buildings. In fact, I think New York and Washington, D.C. have gotten so prohibitively expensive that I've heard small businesses are moving out of those areas because it just doesn't make sense to be there anymore. So I'm sure the cost of the buildings is what's adding a little bit to this decision, but let's continue. In an interview with the Washington Post, Yelp co-founder and CEO Jeremy Stoppelman, what a name, called hybrid offices, quote, the worst of both worlds, and noted that two things have become increasingly clear following the pandemic. Workers want to do their job remotely, and the company benefits from meeting the demand. Stoppelman acknowledged the growing popularity of hybrid policies, in which employees work from the office part-time, but called them the hell of half measures. It's the worst of three options, he said. Yelp is also reducing its Phoenix office space. All closures and reductions of offices, which Yelp says are the most consistently underutilized, will be effective July 29th. Stoppelman's decision to double down on remote work comes after Yelp told its 4,400 employees last year that they can work from anywhere indefinitely. It also downsized its San Francisco headquarters to opt for a hoteling model in which employees reserve their desk spaces for the day. Yelp is among a growing number of companies, including Twitter, Airbnb, and Slack, that have indicated that the future of work is remote. Meanwhile, others are opting for a hybrid work environment or a 5-day in-office work week. I'm going to pause for a second and say for a hybrid work environment or a 5-day in-office work week. So basically, those people want to go back to the way it was, but I just don't think people really want to do that anymore. Yelp plans to use the cost savings from the office space to reinvest in hiring, in employee benefits and perks, and the business itself. Now, that is also very smart. Now, I'm going to come over to myself for just a minute and share a little story. You might know that I recently was laid off from my job. And look, there's not really any ill will. I could see it coming. I was working in finances when it came to mortgages. And if you looked at the housing market, things were just getting really, really bad. So I wasn't terribly surprised that I got laid off. But what did surprise me, and maybe what kind of disappoints me, is that when I went to turn in my computer software, we had to turn this computer software, and they have a huge office. We're talking about like an office that is bigger than this house that I'm in. And if you can see this house is 1,800 square feet. And they were probably generously using 700 square feet. They really only needed one room with two offices in it. There was a main room that had the office for the CEO, and the office for HR, and the meeting room, and the storage room. And then there is, 1,200 other square or 1,000 other square footage that is just not being used. And I kind of wondered a little bit, could some of these layoffs at the very least have been delayed had they decided to maybe downsize what they actually needed? Especially since everyone's remote. No one's using this space. But they decided to lay people off first. So it's nice that at least one company is looking at all of this and saying, people don't want to come to the office. It works just as well remote. And we can cut down and we can reinvest in our employees and hiring. That makes a lot of sense, and that is the sign of a smart CEO. Let's that one's not good. Let's continue with this one. Or do we want to go down here? Actually, I think I kind of like that one. Let's do that. All right, so continuing. But Stoppelman says he isn't taking Yelp's work policies lightly. Instead, he says he's following data from employee surveys as well as business results. Because yes, it's been pointed out time and time again, the business results showed that there has been no downgrade in productivity for people, or for most people who've been remote. A recent company survey shows that more than 85% of respondents prefer to work remotely most or all of the time, and that remote work has made them more effective, Stoppelman says. Only 1% of employees are currently going to an office every day. The company announced its remote policy in 2021 and opened its offices in March 2022. Meanwhile, Yelp reported a net profit of $39.7 million on a record revenue of $1.03 billion in 2021. Revenue continued to increase in 2022, popping 19% in the first quarter. Frankly, it was somewhat surprising, Stoppelman said about the success of remote work. We feel strongly that this is the way forward. When it comes to the buzzy world of hybrid work, Stoppelman pointed to a few problems. Employees are still required to commute only to arrive at an office where they only see a small portion of their coworkers. They're also forced to reside or relocate to potentially more expensive cities where they can go to an office. Meanwhile, companies miss out on savings that come with reducing their footprints, and they limit their talent pool to certain geographical areas. Stoppelman also pushed back on the idea that companies can't create culture in a remote environment, as Yelp has had a somewhat distributed workforce years before the pandemic. Instead, he says culture comes from who a company hires who it fires, and who it promotes. When people talk about this, they don't have robust data to back it up, he said, about concerns of losing culture and creativity in remote environments. As a result of its remote policies, Stoppelman said Yelp has been able to hire employees in all U.S. states, as well as Canada, Germany, and the U.K. He said he expects this to increase the diversity of the company's employee base. Looking ahead, Stoppelman said he plans to continue reviewing worker surveys to determine how its other offices located in San Francisco, London, Toronto, and Hamburg are being used and whether they're still needed. So far, they're still getting enough usage to keep them open, he said. He's also paying attention to what benefits employees want and need. Following the pandemic, the company beefed up its offerings to include a home office equipment reimbursement, a monthly work-from-home stipend to cover costs like internet, additional wellness days, and child care benefits. I like this guy. I think he's doing it right. And I am so happy that some CEOs just seem to get it. That, hey, you know what? We've been doing, sorry, my nose is itching so bad, and that's the problem with doing it live. There's people who've been working from home. The world did not fall apart when we went remote. It's ridiculous that there are companies that are really strong arming people to come into the office. You have to come into the office. No, you don't. In fact, let us share another opinion from another CEO. This one, the CEO of GitLab. And he said this very interesting thing: remote work is just work. Let's look at this article. Spring 2022 was slated to be a big season for workplaces. After 2 years of false starts, it seemed as though companies across every industry had set their sights on this season as the time to return to the office, or as some are calling it, the return to work. But from where I'm standing, I don't think there was ever a time when we stopped working. Employees haven't just been biding time and treading water since they were sent home in early 2020. They've been working harder than ever. A study from the Becker-Friedman Institute projects that the post-pandemic economy will experience a productivity boost of 4.8% when compared to pre-pandemic working conditions, mainly due to time saved by not commuting. The Becker-Friedman Institute study data also tell us that we've been working more efficiently from remote locations like our homes than we did while in office. For any leader to suggest otherwise disrespects the hard work employees have been putting in for the last 2 years amid some of the most turbulent times in recent memory. So why now? Why throw away all of the progress we've made working remotely and strip all individual choice from the equation? Why choose this moment in time to effectively tell employees that they cannot be trusted to make their own decisions about where they work and how they spend their time? The last 2 years have shown us that remote work is now just work. Let me repeat that. The last 2 years have shown us that remote work is now just work. And work is work, whether you're doing it in an office building, in your home office, or in a coffee shop. It makes me wonder, what is the motivation behind pushing employees back to the office? Is it the hope that returning to the office will bring some semblance of pre-pandemic normalcy? The frustration of eating the cost of unused real estate in San Francisco, London, New York, and Tokyo? Whatever the reasons are, many of the anti-remote work messages from managers run counter to what I've experienced as a leader. It started with articles from executives claiming that careers would suffer from a lack of networking. Then there were claims that workers are less productive from home. Then there were the target dates for return led by Google, Qualcomm, Goldman Sachs, Citigroup, and Microsoft, among others. When it comes to remote work, you may think I'm biased. I have led GitLab Inc., one of the largest all-remote organizations in the world, from inception for over a decade. But that's how strongly I believe in the power of remote work. I've been campaigning the cause since the idea of an all-remote organization was just a fun quirk to some and a huge red flag to others. Making the permanent switch to remote work for many companies won't be easy. For most companies, after 2 years of working remotely in crisis mode, it'll be an adjustment for leadership to view it for what it is, the new way of working. The companies that have not yet embraced permanent remote work are at a crossroads. Let's walk through what is at stake if they choose not to take this step forward. So from the CEO, the GitLab CEO's perspective, these are some of the disadvantages that we face with returning to the office. By the way, I think it's funny that there's this big Boeing banner above this whole thing, because I am honestly kind of terrified to fly on Boeings because of all the crashes they've had recently. I'm not afraid of flights, but I'm just saying Boeing, I'm not sure if I trust flying on them. Anyway, a competitive disadvantage. For every company that is unwilling to provide any remote work flexibility to their employees, there's another company just around the corner ready to poach their talent. Demanding that employees work on-site turns hiring into a Sisyphean task for HR teams, especially those hiring for tech jobs. A 2022 report from the Terminal found that 3/4 of engineers surveyed wanted to work remotely at least 3 days a week. I want to work remotely 4 to 5 days a week. Remote work allows employees to be more efficient by cutting out morning and evening commutes, thus giving them the flexibility to structure their day in a way that works for them. As a result, the benefits of working from home or asynchronous, there's my stutter, sorry, we're going to skip that word, are impossible to replicate with rigid on-site schedules. 2, ignorance of generational differences. A recent survey of the workforce found that 60% of millennials and 62% of Gen Zers, Zers, I believe that's how you pronounce it, ranked flexible working arrangements, including opportunities to work remotely at least a few days a week, as their top priorities when job hunting. Ignoring the expectations of these combined groups will have long-lasting effects on an organization. In fact, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics predict that by 2030, millennials will make up 75% of the workforce. And this doesn't factor in Gen Zers' ascension through the ranks of companies. In just a few years, these combined groups will have the lion's share of employees' negotiating power. It's crucial to consider their priorities when preparing for future iterations of the workplace. 3, restricted professional opportunities. Going back to the office for so many means returning to the usual job centers, mainly in large cities. By making flexible, lucrative opportunities available to everyone, no matter the region, we can reverse depopulation in rural areas and help make cities more affordable for locals who have been priced out due to housing inequality driven in part by the tech boom. The pandemic has shed light on the important beneficial role that community plays in our lives. By making remote work a possibility for all, workers don't have to give up living in their community of choice to gain professional opportunities. He's kind of right there. I mean, me and my wife have actually considered moving to Vegas or Kentucky or Nashville, Tennessee, because there's lots of things like about those areas and it's much cheaper. But you know, if remote work spreads people out, I would probably rather stay in California. And if there's people in California who are only there because there's a high-paying job, but they'd much rather live somewhere else, they could move there, and then maybe the housing prices would come down. I don't know. But I do think like putting all of the best jobs in 2 or 3 big cities is creating a huge imbalance problem. 4, the path forward. Maybe you've read this far and thought, this all sounds great, but it would never work for my organization. If this is you, I want you to ask yourself if you've really given remote work a fair shot, or if you've just treated it as a short-term solution before you get back to the office. I don't just mean sending your employees home with their laptops and scheduling a remote happy hour occasionally. I mean truly investing in the employee experience. Are you invested in making sure your employees have access to ergonomic and productive remote workplaces the way you would in the office, or are your employees all working from their couches? Do they have the tools needed to collaborate with their team members in a way that allows for asynchronous communication, or are you still using office-centric tools to communicate? Transparency is also a key element of making remote work accessible for all. If information about your company is scattered across drives, documents, and emails, consider collecting this knowledge in the handbook that's accessible to all employees. And he has a link there. We're not going to look at that. Maybe we'll do a live stream looking at that handbook later on. You know, I don't know. You let me know if that's something you'd want to see. Intentionally and transparency are critical to harnessing the power of remote work. Every dollar and every minute you invest in your remote workforce should be dedicated to building trust and empowering your workforce. And I believe this is the end where he has a challenge to all leaders. If you were once a leader who made sure your employees were at their desks at 9 a.m. and rewarded those who stayed long after 5 p.m., I challenge you to reconsider how you measure success. When no one is in the office and we strip away all optics surrounding professionalism and hard work, all that's left is results. If you were once a leader who, I hate ads sometimes, but I will not use an ad blocker because, these sites need to make money. If you were once a leader who evaluated candidates against vague bias criteria, such as if you would like to get a beer with them or not, I challenge you to reassess your hiring processes and consider how remote work can usher in a more diverse array of talent. And if you're a leader who is scared of the changes that remote work will bring, I challenge you to make the necessary cultural shifts, adjust your organization's workflows, and overcome the biggest remote workplace barrier yourself. Sid, I am so sorry. I do not know how to pronounce that name, but there it is. The CEO of GitLab. What is GitLab? Well, let us take a look at GitLab, because GitLab is not some little unknown company. Well, maybe you haven't heard about them, but it's not exactly a nothing company. It is a DevOps platform, planning production, bring teams together for one application, ship secure code faster, deploy any cloud, drive business results. Yeah, I mean, as you can see, this is the ideal company to be remote. And yet he's absolutely right. And Yelp is absolutely right. You know what's really funny about most companies you work with? I bet you most of the time when you go to the office, you're on Google Documents all day and you're doing stuff on Slack. And here's the thing, that stuff is all in the cloud. And Microsoft Teams is becoming a much, much bigger player in the business world. And so I just don't understand. Like, when you go into the office, you're basically doing remote work as it is. And yet these CEOs just don't want to do it. And I don't understand why. So I really liked what the GitLab CEO had to say. I'm going to actually reach out to him, see if he'd like to come on my channel. I don't know if he actually will, but I'd like to talk to him about this a little bit more. But in the meantime, what do you think of his comments? What do you think about Yelp going to basically downsizing their offices and doubling down on remote work? Do you think this is like a good direction for the wall to be going in? I'd love to know. Comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe, and as always, flame responsibly. All right, so hey, repair your PC. So glad you could make it. So anyway, we've got one more story, and this is the one that has probably the least to do with this channel, but ironically, it's probably the one at the moment most of you are going to be concerned most about. So we all knew that Netflix is in financial trouble, and they kind of played around with the idea that maybe we're going to start introducing ads onto Netflix. And of course, a lot of people said that they would actually cancel their Netflix accounts if ads were introduced, which I personally call BS on that. I don't think people will be getting rid of their Netflix accounts if ads are put on there. I think a few people might, but they'll eventually come back. Well, here's the thing. The ads are official. Ads are officially coming, and here's what it means. So this is according to Time. After years of resisting advertisements on its streaming platform, Netflix is introducing commercials to its service. Netflix co-CEO Ted Sarandos confirmed on Thursday that the company would begin testing an ad-supported lower-price subscription tier. The streaming company is speaking to multiple potential partners to help ease its entrance into the ad world, Sarandos said while speaking at the International Ad Festival, Cannes Lions. Those partners reportedly include Comcast, NBC Universal, and Google. Do you like how I did Google? And I thought it was clever. Maybe it's not. Saranda's confirmation comes in the midst of a rough year for Netflix. As competition among entertainment services grows more intense, the streaming giant lost subscribers for the first time in a decade, faced a backlash for cracking down on password sharing, and laid off over 150 employees, or about 1.5% of its global workforce. By the way, they also laid off an additional 300 employees today. I don't know if that's mentioned in this article, but just throwing it out there. Sarando says, we've left a big customer segment off the table, which is people who say, hey, Netflix is too expensive for me and I don't mind advertising. We're adding an ad tier. We're not adding ads to Netflix as you know it today. Netflix co-CEO Reed Hastings had telegraphed the advertising plans, suggesting a first quarter earnings call in April that ads could be on the way in the next year or two. Quote, those who have followed Netflix knows that I've been against the complexity of advertising and a big fan of the simplicity of subscription. But as much as I'm a fan of that, I'm a bigger fan of consumer choice and allowing consumers who like to have a lower price and are advertising tolerant to get what they want makes a lot of sense. Then the New York Times reported in May that Netflix had told its employees an ad-based plan could launch by the end of the year, sooner than previously expected. So here's the thing. Netflix's current subscription model can use their account on 1, 2, or 4 screens at once, and prices reflect the number of screens available. $9.99 and between $9.99 and $19.99. The ad-supported tier will create a lower price option for subscribers who are willing to watch commercials in exchange for paying a little less. Now, I personally think that means the tier is probably going to cost like $7.99. Maybe $5.99 as an introductory rate, but it'll go up to $7.99. I think that's what's going to happen. And then at some point, they'll even just take away the lowest tier, the $9.99 tier. That's going to be replaced with the ad tier. They're going to introduce it slowly but surely. And here's the thing. I pay for the highest tier. I'm not sure if I can do that for a whole lot longer, but I do. And I'm personally of the belief that ads were always inevitable. Netflix does not make money just dumping shows on Netflix. They don't. And the more people stream a show, doesn't matter. If it's the number one rated show in the world, if they don't gain a single subscriber based on that show is worthless to them. That's how Cowboy Bebop, which did get a lot of viewers, could be canceled, as is many other shows. Now, I think the ads might be a good thing in that regard, because if you have a show that is the most watched show on Netflix, even if it doesn't bring in a lot of subscribers, if there's a substantial amount of people watching those shows with ads, then Netflix can raise the price of those ads for those shows. Ads might actually save some of your shows from being canceled. So personally, I am all for it. And if you don't want ads, there is a tier that you can pay to not have them. Now, there is a bad thing about this, and I do acknowledge this, that I do believe that somewhere down the road, Netflix without ads is going to be a lot more expensive. I'm not talking about it's going to cost $25. I wouldn't be surprised if ad-free Netflix eventually costs $40 to $50. Like, it's a premium thing that you pay for. And the ad service is probably going to be $20. And the reason I say that is because ads are ultimately what's more profitable. People keep forgetting, or maybe they're too young to know this. The whole pitch with cable TV when it came out, like when they announced that cable TV was coming, that you'd be paying for TV, people would say, well, what am I paying for TV for when I've got free TV? And the answer, no ads. And then at some point, a few ads were put on, and before you knew it, then there were ads on cable, and people said, wait a minute, I'm paying cable TV for no ads. Why are there ads? Oh, we've got no ad channels, but they're premium channels. So basically, Netflix is recreating the launch of cable TV all over again, and the other streaming services are going to follow suit. Heck, I think HBO Max already has an ad tier plan, and Disney has already announced that Disney Plus is going to have an ad tier plan. So it's going to happen. Totally does not surprise me at all. But the question is, what do you guys think about it? Would you have Netflix with an ad tier plan? Would you do it to save some money? Or are you one of those, I would just cancel Netflix if they ever put ads on my account? I would really love to know what you think about that one. Comment below. Like, favorite, share, subscribe. And as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one. And with that out of the way, I believe we are done with this episode of the Apptrepreneur Show. I know we only had like a few people watching tonight, and except for Repair Your PC, no one really said anything. That's fine. Thank you for spending time to chat with me in general. If anyone missed these episodes, we're going to be cutting them up into separate videos throughout the next couple weeks anyway. In the meantime, folks, stay safe out there, take care, and have a good one.